And the next thing we want to talk about today was lifestyle. So,
Yeah.
lifestyle is a huge uh, part of what helps our fertility, but it's also a really touchy subject because it's hard to make a lot of these changes. But even maybe a couple of these changes can make a huge difference. So, let's go into that.
Totally. I feel like fertility clients are the most motivated people I've ever worked with. And that's why I love this, because naturopathic medicine is for people who are willing to do things. It's not just about taking things. It's not just about what you eat, even though that's a large part of it. There has to be this motivation for change and wanting to achieve your health goals. And so what bigger goal than having a child? But yeah, I don't really like talking about weight because I don't think that we need to talk about numbers, and I don't think we need to talk about even BMI, so like body mass index. The goal is to find a healthy weight for you. And so, yeah, that's easier said than done. A lot of physicians or healthcare providers will say, go lose weight and come back. And it drives me crazy because there's no tools in that. So what I recommend is working with someone like myself where we can find an individualized nutrition plan. Finding foods that are good for you, but also avoiding the foods that maybe are causing inflammation, like food sensitivities. That can affect your weight, but so can hormones, whether it's, your reproductive hormones, like we're so focused on with egg health, your menstrual cycle, things like that, or thyroid, which is very important to test before wanting to get pregnant, because often the conventional doctors will still test thyroid, but they may not do it in a comprehensive way. And it's really important for me to be confident that the thyroid is functioning really well if someone is trying to achieve a healthy weight, but also if they're trying to get pregnant. So, number 2, exercise. And yes, that plays into weight, but I like it more for the objective of encouraging optimal circulation. So, when you sit still for a really long time, your hands get cold, like mine are cold right now. You get up, you get moving, and you notice that your periphery warms up, and then maybe you feel like more cognizant, you have better mental clarity, you have better energy. That is a sign of getting oxygen to all your tissues. And so specifically for this case, we want as much oxygen to our eggs as possible so that they're as healthy as they can be before they're released and fertilized. So exercise is very important, but don't worry about being like, oh, now I need to start training for a marathon. I like the idea of just moving your body frequently throughout the day. Get up and take a walk. Even if it's 10 minutes, like if you're not in a routine of doing it, walk around the block, or, do some jumping jacks, do some push-ups, but it's the discipline of doing it frequently and just checking it off the list.
Right. And like, I think so many of us are used to, you go to work, so you're either working out before work or after work, and then that's all you do in terms of
Mm-hmm.
physical activity. When really, when we're talking about circulation, you kind of want to be moving around more often,
Yeah.
getting up, going to the kitchen at your office, taking a walk, just simple things like that, just to get your blood moving, get the fluids in your body moving, because otherwise you feel stuffed up. And then, you don't have all those things don't really have a place to go.
Well, and think about your
Yeah.
pelvis, especially if you're sitting all day, like at least you can move your upper body and everything, but we really got to move that pelvis. So I often tell women, even when they're pregnant, do some hula hooping because, you're getting that circulation going, but it's specifically for your pelvis. Squats are a good one for training for, actually having a baby, but also getting oxygen to the pelvis.
Yeah, and I know a lot of offices sometimes offer you to sit on a yoga ball. Take
Hmm.
the option once in a while, just change things up, because, not only is it physically stimulating, but it'll also probably be mentally stimulating too while you're at work.
Yeah. So another tip for lifestyle is to avoid those reactive oxidative species. So the oxidative stress we were talking about, where antioxidants clean up that mess. Let's avoid the cause of that mess in the first place. So the biggest ones, and I think these are all really obvious, but it's important to hone in on moderation as well as why are we avoiding some things. So alcohol, again, it's fine in moderation, but in those binge drinking situations are an issue where not only does it cause this oxidative stress, it can have an influence on your cortisol, your stress hormones, your blood sugars, obviously your liver, where your hormones are made. So, you know, taking a step towards like finding a healthy balance with alcohol. And then to just don't smoke. I mean, that is obvious. We know better. If you are a smoker, take steps to at least decrease why smoking is bad. We all know it. But that biggest source. Third, cut back on the caffeine. I mean, 1 or 2 cups of coffee a day may still be too much for you. It just depends on the individual. Even tea can be drank in excess. I know a lot of people who hate water and they only want to drink tea. Herbal tea is fine. Just keeping in mind that caffeine does trigger cortisol, your stress hormone. And again, that can influence your blood sugars as well as your hormone production. I know that when I was drinking too much coffee, my digestion got super messed up, and that's not really optimal for nutrient balance either. So then coming back to pesticides, you know, watching what you're eating in terms of the sourcing of your vegetables and fruit, but also your meat. Meat is what it eats, as are we. So what I really want to encourage is people to eat organic and whole fat dairy, because that's going to have an optimal level of omega-3s versus omega-6s. When something is eating more corn, like whether it's grass-fed beef versus corn-fed beef, the grass-fed beef is going to have a better omega-3 balance, and that's good for inflammation. Like that helps cut inflammation. Whereas that omega-6 heavy diet is causing more inflammatory meat. So, you know, thinking about that in terms of your sourcing for like chicken, eggs, beef, lamb, eggs. I mean, all those the animal products too.
Let's go talk again about smoking because you cut out a little bit. So,
Oh, okay.
the point about avoiding smoking.
Yeah, so the smoking, I mean, we all know that we need to not smoke. And I think that, you know, even when someone starts smoking, they know this is not optimal. But the goal for someone who may smoke already is to just try to decrease, at least do your best to back it off. Set some goals for yourself to back it off, because every cigarette, every puff has an influence on oxidative stress in your body.
Right. And eventually, if you are able to get pregnant, like that's going to be something you have to kind
It'll
of
be
challenge
really
yourself to do
hard.
anyways.
Yep, yep.
Is there anything like, do you have an opinion about vaping? I know that's could be a little different, but kind of also the same.
Yeah, you know, I'm definitely in the camp of like avoid it 100%. It's just like smoking because it's still causing free radicals in the body. And then of course, you know, what else is in there? Well, there's polyethylene glycol and like other things that your body does not need. But I have seen some benefit for vaping for people who literally were trying to quit smoking cigarettes. And if they set goals for themselves, it can be a helpful weaning process. But, you know, I'm not encouraging vaping, no.
Right. And like, there's also a note that everybody probably knows somebody who drinks, smokes, drinks a lot of coffee, doesn't eat well, but got pregnant. You know,
Sure.
everybody's journey is way different, but these tips today we're going over just really to boost your own fertility and to boost health of your eggs specifically. So, you know, we all have those stories of someone just getting pregnant and, you know, that's all that they do. They're really talented at that. Yeah, but these tips are definitely meant to help you figure out and navigate the best way working with your lifestyle. But, you know, there are ways to improve it as well.
Definitely. So the biggest topic of conversation, and I think this extends to every single client I've ever worked with, including myself, which I'll get into, but stress. You know, stress is another thing where we all identify with it. We all know how, you know, negative impact that can have on our health, but it impacts all chronic disease, not just the desire to conceive or fertility issues. What I see the most is, you know, whether it's good stress or bad stress, it still affects the body. So the thing that we want to do is evaluate what is it actually doing. Number one is we look at cortisol. That's the fight or flight hormone. It's accompanied by adrenaline and epinephrine and norepinephrine. But cortisol I focus on because the adrenal glands make it. And that's what governs your circadian rhythm. So it peaks when you wake up in the morning and then it bottoms out when you go to sleep. It should. stressors throughout the day, whether it's, you know, someone honking their horn at you, an argument, or even too much caffeine can trigger cortisol. Low blood sugars can trigger cortisol. Now, when cortisol is up longer than it should be, or too often, or if it gets super wacky, that will impact your ovaries. And you may not release the right amount of progesterone, and then eventually not enough estrogen, testosterone. DHEA is another hormone that we need to focus on. And so it really is a pain, because stress can totally throw everything off. And I think a lot of us women can identify with that, whether it's, you know, a history of like aggressive exercise. I remember when I was playing sports, my periods were all over the place. Or if you just have like a trauma or a terrible grieving process, and you're like, I'm not getting my period this month. You know, like that is way more common than people think. So I look at cortisol levels with a saliva test. And that's actually how I look at hormones too, like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA. You spit it in a little tube when you wake up in the morning, and then again at noon and 4 and 8 p.m.-ish. And that gives us like that curve. And so we can support someone in an individualized matter as to like, okay, where do these factors come in? Like, is your morning all messed up? Is it your afternoon? Like, it's really nice to look at something objective when we're talking about stress. So yeah, what I'm getting at is, when we talk about hormones or when we talk about stress, we have the golden triangle, which is the thyroid, ovaries, which are on top of the kidneys, and the adrenals that are on top of the kidneys, and the ovaries. And so they all work in harmony. And if one of them is off, like the adrenals with stress, that's going to pull the other things with it.
Yeah, awesome. And that's something that a lot of people who might be seeking fertility advice, like, we don't know what you need individually unless we do some testing.
Right.
So, you know, everybody can give each other advice all the time. Like, I see it on Facebook all the time,
Oh, yeah.
you know, or like moms chatting with each other, but everybody's so different that, you know, you're not going to know exactly, you know, how stress is impacting your body or anything like that, really, unless you do a little bit of objective testing to
Right.
go along with it. But then also having like an expert consult you on what to do and being able to take their time and look at those results with you.
Yeah, perspective is everything. And that's why I feel like I finally had success, is like I stopped trying to control it all on my own and do all my own research and figure it all out for my own desire to conceive. It was when I like stepped back and got more stress support. So saw a counselor, got acupuncture, and I think that those two things really like solidified how we got pregnant. But you know, I think that to round it out, I also had very low progesterone for a long time because I was making too much cortisol stress. And so it was multifactorial. It is never just one thing. And that's why it can be really hard for people to navigate it on their own. So reaching out for help is pretty critical.
So what's the next step for someone who might be listening to this webinar?
Well, I really encourage anyone that's listening now to explore our website a little bit more, vitalhealth.com, because there's going to be more information, like the blogs and maybe more webinars and videos down the road. But that will give you some more information to start implementing some of these ideas right away. And then I encourage you to just set up an appointment. We can really dig into your personal health, you as an individual, and find out what you need to build more functional fertility support. So whether it's nutrition, supplements, or lifestyle, we can round out this treatment plan that's just for you, with an emphasis on egg health, but also, you know, maybe troubleshooting some things that you've had going on aside from that.
So if you want to book an appointment, you just go ahead and enter this bit.ly link, and it'll take you right to Dr. McCubben's scheduling page. And you know, if you're still on the fence about if functional fertility can help you, you can email our support team at hello@vitalhealth.com. And we're really, really happy to answer any questions that you have. So thanks for joining us for this webinar. And we can't wait to send you more content like this from Dr. McCubbins and more from our Vital Health team. So thanks.
Thank you.